So this is just to give you an idea, Shivanti, and also to other colleagues, that sometimes there are issues around us, there are opportunities around us, and all we need to have is, my preference would be to collect primary data as much as possible. And once we have collected the primary data, surely before that, we would have also identified the learning objectives in terms of the placement of that potential course in our specific case, in our specific course or program. So all of this has to come together. So once again, Shivanti, thank you very much for your contribution. Let me now go to another colleague. Who could it be? Tarusha, can I ask you to please share your reflections with us in terms of the homework which had been assigned to you?
Yes, thank you. I was, after last week's session, I also went through some cases, and especially in Harvard Business Publishing. And I looked at some cases which are close to my teaching areas, and found a case which was, because I teach management accounting related topic, strategic management accounting, etc. And there was this particular case which I found was on making balance scorecard work, the world-class lighting experience. So I found that case pretty interesting, given that that was very much linked to a particular topic that I am teaching, and it was in a way really relating to the theoretical concept of balance scorecard, while talking about the issues that you encounter in implementation, and they had given some insights about the particular organization. So it really helped to put the findings in context. So that was a useful case, which I thought, from my perspective, carrying forward the learning that we gathered thanks to your facilitation last week. And moving on, I would like if we could get further insights about how you really go about writing a case, in terms of tips for writing and how to avoid common pitfalls, etc. So something like that, in those lines, in terms of steps, tips, and things, the common errors that you could make. If you could share with us, I would think that would be also help all the participants.
Sure, thank you, Tarusha. I'm still with you, Tarusha. Yeah. So tell me, in terms of the case which you selected, what exactly were the learning outcomes of the case which really appealed to you, and which specific course are you do you intend to use that specific case for?
Yes, this particular case, it's about because the merits of balance scorecard, etc., is talked about, but when you really go to practice it, there can be various issues. So this case actually talks about practical implementation problems, and there's this topic, balance scorecard is a topic that I teach at the undergraduate level under the course Strategic Management Accounting, and I thought that this will be a good case which will fit those students, because they are final year students, and it's important for them to really also get grip of the practical challenges that you encounter. Therefore, what really interested me was not only just talks about the theory of the concept, it really talks about problems that you can encounter in practicing. So that was really the interesting point that I felt important in this particular case. So it gives kind of experience to the students about the practical issues. And in terms of the writing style, it was very much suitable for undergraduates, because it was very simply written, and it was not excessive, very excessive in terms of length. And it also gave contextual information which helps students to understand, put the data in context. So all that was there. Therefore, I thought it would be a good case for students to really understand the practical side of the technique, because there was real life data gathered from the organization as well.
Thank you very much, Tarusha, for this. Once again, to recap, what exactly is a case study or what exactly is a teaching case? Give me one line. Anyone, give me one line. Speak, just unmute yourself and speak up. Iranjana?
I think case study is I would say, a technique that we use to bring a real life scenario into a classroom teaching.
Okay, okay. So it's a technique which we use to bring, I like this word, Iranjana, which you have used, a real life scenario into our teaching. So practically you see that it is not always possible to take our class or entire class to a field trip, but surely the field trip can be brought to a classroom, and case study, a teaching case, is a tool through which we in a way simulate our students into a real life situation. Is that what you suggested, Ranjana?
Yeah, that's exactly what I suggested, because um, even I mentioned in one of the previous weeks as well, in management and even subjects like marketing, it's very important that we bring in real life scenarios, and it's very difficult for us to take everyone outside, or as sometimes we invite special resource personnel. So in that case, well written case studies are a good vehicle for us to achieve certain learning outcomes in the class.
That's fine. So let's go to the, let me go to the next slide, which is what's a case. So let's take a look. It's a story. It's a story describing or based on actual events. So surely you see that case has to be made interesting. Case has to be made engaging. Therefore, whenever we will be writing a case, whenever you would be writing a case, you have to bear in mind that you are a story writer. You are writer of a film or movie for Hollywood or Bollywood, or maybe for whatever the name of the film industry in Colombo is. You have to write a story, but the story should be based on actual events. And the story should be worthy of careful study and analysis. So in terms of the content, it should be worthy. In terms of the data, it should have rich data and enough data for the analysis. And the second point is that we have to put the reader in the shoes of the protagonist, whosoever is the protagonist. A CEO, for example, who would like to implement management by objectives, MBO, could be another protagonist. A human resource director who is facing major attrition or turnover in the organization could be another protagonist. So working on a teaching case is basically simulation of real life situation or real world organization. And one thing which all of us continue to remind us and each other times and again, because because case method is new to us, is this, that no, there doesn't have to be a right answer, or there doesn't have to be an appropriate solution or one appropriate solution to a case. No, not at all. The case should be broad enough that it should have the ability to offer multitude of right answers and multitude of appropriate solutions. So if you, for example, have written a case or a caselet where you think that there is one right answer, you need to rewrite the whole case in order to make it open-ended. So that is another point which I would like you to consider. And then the last point is that students, managers, and decision makers, they would like the information they would like the information to be made available, but at the same time, they would not always have the information. So I would like to have as much information as possible uh, in my case as a student or as a case writer, but practically it is not possible. Now, increasingly, there is an emphasis on smaller case studies. So when you have looked at, for example, the traditional case studies or traditional cases which are available at the Harvard Business Publishing website, you might have noticed that some of those cases are 20 pages long, 25, 30. But now the trend is that the case could be 7 to 15 pages, 10 to 15 pages, or 10 to 12 pages. So now there is a focus on case studies which are shorter in terms of their length. in order to make it more practical for students as well as instructors to cover the area or cover the information or analyze the information which is given in the case. Therefore, now you can understand that within 10 pages, you have to provide company information, you have to provide information about the case scenario, you have to provide information about the decision point or the tension point. Surely some information can be provided, but then there is a lot of information which would not be there in the case. And that happens in real life as well. We never have enough information about a scenario. Many things happen, for example, within our own faculty of management at University of Colombo. And we never had enough information, even though we were the dean, or we were the head of the department, or we were the assistant professor or associate professor. We always have limited information. So that is also a case, that is also a scenario, not only in real life, but also when we write and teach cases.
What makes me write a case? What would make me write a case?
Thank you, Roveha. Yeah, go ahead, Rajishta.
Right, because well, you can design a case which addresses the learning outcomes that you want to cover in the session. So you can then basically design the case for very specific learning outcomes. That's what.
But you have so much material already available with you in terms of books and book chapters and lecture slides, which are already covering learning outcomes. Why would you like to spend extra time?
Because sometimes, well, a case can cover so many different outcomes. So if you really want to focus on very specific ones, you could design a case surrounding them instead of having a case which also addresses other outcomes, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you very much, Rajastha, for this. Okay, I'll take maybe one more, and then from there we will move on. Tejani, have you already contributed or not yet? If not, then please tell me, why would you like to write a case study?
Well, good evening, Doctor. So I think I have never written a case, and I really like to write a case. I write one case and also again to continue as well. So I think I really like to write a case because one thing is I believe it improves my knowledge about cases because I have to read a lot about the industry, the situation, and also about other cases. And also, again, I think it improves my writing skills also, which will be very helpful. And it is about me. And then again, I believe for my students also, this will facilitate me to, use these cases, the case I have written, and for teaching them. So, and also plus anyone who is interested in reading these cases, this would also help them as well. That's simply, I think that's why I'm interested. So it is not only about me, yeah, I think it improves my students as well.
That's fine. Thank you very much for this. Now let me,
one thing, I think if you are a good case writer, as I understand, you can earn a lot of money if it is circulated cases, right? Correct?
That's right, Chaminda, that if you become, for example, God willing, a great case writer, but surely some of your cases would be picked by Harvard Business School, for example, and then you would start receiving money on the per use basis. Okay, friends, let me go to some other arguments of why write your own teaching case. So as Rajistha very legitimately said, that learning objectives for your students, maybe I've already got some material with me in terms of the book chapters or the books or my own lecture slides or simulations, which are helping in the learning objectives, but maybe I'm not satisfied with the current material. Maybe I would like to give a different flavor to my students. Maybe I'm sick and tired of monotone or monotonous lectures or one-way lectures, and I would like to give my students the real life flavor of organizational scenario. So that's why it is important that learning objectives, they serve as a trigger or as a driver for us to write case studies. The second point is that case study, when we write a case study, we also provide an authentic voice relevant to our local business and social context. Now, this is something very interesting. which I have often faced. So for example, sometimes when I'm teaching my MBA students at LUMS in Lahore, some of them, if not all of them, sometimes one of them in my MBA class, or maybe one of them in my executive education class, he or she would raise their hand and they would say that, yes, it's a very good case, but we have a different social context. We have, this case was written in the context of, for example, Los Angeles or Seattle, whereas we live in Colombo, or we should be, for example, we need to understand the local industrial context in Colombo or Lahore, and or the local social context. So therefore, in order to have more authentic and context specific voice, it is important to have to be able to write local cases. The third reason why we should write cases is to boost our impact in the classroom. Not only impact, but also credibility in the classroom as well as on the local businesses. When we write local cases, then surely there is also a possibility that we can invite a case protagonist in our classroom. Maybe at the end of the case discussion, we can invite the case protagonist for half an hour to offer their reflections on what exactly was the scenario which they were facing, what exactly were the pressures on them, what exactly were different variables which they had to consider. The fifth point, as one of you very legitimately also mentioned, was that to develop external context. As instructors, particularly as instructors and in business and management, it would be a shame if we are teaching a subject, but we are not connected to the actual practitioners of that subject in the industry. So writing case study and investigating case study and data collection for a case study, it also provides us with an opportunity to develop external context within the local businesses or public and private sector organizations. The sixth reason why we should write case studies are that because they offer us opportunities for future research and consulting. Maybe we were not only able to collect data, but we were also able to cultivate our own context. And now the organization needs our services for management or for marketing or for strategy. And that has happened with me many times. That, for example, whenever I was investigating something in terms of data collection for a case, the organization became more interested in me and they got to know about certain skill set which I would be able to offer to the organization, and that's how that was an opportunity for consulting, or maybe for my own writing, writing my own research articles. Cases may also be used as instruments for assessment in our exams, and cases may also embed our school in our regional business culture. Any business school and management school or faculty of management would like to be embedded in regional businesses. We know that we would like to develop contacts with them because these are the people who provide opportunities for employment to our graduates. These are the people who sponsor different events and functions of our university or business school. So therefore, it is important to develop contacts with them. So these are 7 or 8 reasons because of which we should write case study. Can I also add another reason which was highlighted by Chaminda, that surely if you are a popular case writer, then surely you would also be able to earn a bit of money. Let me go to the next slide. So from a case writing perspective, what exactly are the common case elements? Let's take a look. So ladies and gentlemen, each case should have a decision maker or a protagonist who is currently grappling with a situation or with some tension point or decision point or a question that has to be addressed. So we need to specify the date, if not exactly the date, but surely the time period. For example, August 2020, we need to also explain the context. For example, the beverages industry in Colombo in August 2020. And here we are dealing with, for example, the director of supply chain. So you see there is a protagonist and there is a context which has been explained. a description of the problem's context, whether it was a law, maybe a specific law has been introduced by ILO or has been introduced by the local government in Sri Lanka, maybe some industrial development, some technological development, some development within the family of the business owner, something which has posed the problem's context. So that also has to be explained. Supporting data, which can range from data tables to links to URLs, some statements or extracts from statements, supporting documents, images, videos, audios, anything which can add to the data point of the case and also add to the empirical credibility of the case. You see, right at the onset, ladies and gentlemen, I would very strongly discourage you that you should not be writing a fictitious case, and you should not be writing a case based on published data. You should collect your own data by going to the industry. Okay, writing cases. We need to learn the strategies to write a case. And the first and the foremost thing which all of us have to consider is we need to start with the learning objectives. The important thing is this, that whenever we write case, we do not have to write a case from the perspective of a policeman. We are not a policeman or a policewoman, or we are not an ombudsperson who have to investigate an organization. In fact, we need to be a more sympathetic insider and outsider. And therefore, the case does not really have to be written in a manner in which we are confronting the organization. The case has to be more in a sympathetic light, but at the same time, while not compromising the main tenets of the case or the main pieces of information of the case. So sensitive topics are surely problematic, but then people do write on sensitive cases. Shivandi, have I been able to answer some of your questions?
Yes, Dr. Jawad, I just want, that means anonymizing is not possible in writing cases.
Anonymizing is a possibility, but bear in mind that even if you anonymize a case, for a case to be published or formally reviewed by a journal or by a case publishing conference or outlet, you would still need to get it signed by a case, by the case organization. Sometimes case organizations allow me to collect data, but when I have written the entire case, they would like me to anonymize the case. Still, I would need them to sign the case because the case has to be on the basis of real life organization. So the issues to consider in writing a case study, first issue I have already indicated is that we have to specify the teaching objectives. If the teaching or learning objectives are not specified, then we should not worry. Do not write a case. If you do not know, if you're not even clear about the teaching objectives, where do you think that this case would fit in, then do not even bother about it. So first thing is teaching objectives. Then what exactly are the other things? Identifying the managerial issues. What are the managerial issues? So for example, maybe a relatively less sensitive thing could be that how exactly does an organization address issues of financial embezzlement? So maybe those are some of the managerial issues, because the organization for the past maybe few months or 2 years has not been able to have a balanced accounting sheet. There is an issue, for example, in the balance sheet. So therefore, that is a managerial issue which has to be dealt at the level of, maybe at the level of accounting and finance manager, or maybe at the level of CFO, or at the level of CEO. So identifying the managerial issues. Maybe the level of the managerial issue at hand is the attrition rate, the high employee turnover. Maybe that is the managerial issue. Preparing field work. What kind of data would be needed? Where is the organization situated? Where is the industry situated? Who are the relevant people? What exactly is the kind of data which I need to collect? How many interviews, with whom? What kind of secondary data would be collected? So that is preparing. Who will go and collect the data? Who will write the notes? Who will transcribe? Data gathering process. Would we be using some handwritten notes? Would we be using, for example, audio tapes? What exactly is it? Would we be using emails or maybe Survey Monkey and other methods of data collection. What would be the structure of the case study which we would like to use? Would we spend more time on the industry background, or would we give only relatively less portion or less space to industry background? Preparing the case plan, what exactly would be the very rough outline of the case? And then in addition to case study writing, we also should have the ability to write a case study teaching note. So case per self is not sufficient. We should also have the ability to write a case note in order to demonstrate and help not only to us, but also to other future instructors that, look, these are the courses in which this case can be used. These are the learning objectives which you can hope to achieve when you run this case. These are the additional questions which can be asked. These are the main questions which can be asked. These are the theoretical lenses which can be used in the analysis of the cases. And challenges in writing case studies. Okay, at this point, I would like you to offer your reflections. What are the challenges which you think that you can face in writing case studies? Anyone? Nishani?
Yes, yes, Professor Jawad. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So writing case studies, I think because my area is actually banking industry. So different areas of the banking industry that I'm teaching. So theory and practice. I think in my case, writing case studies, what is the major challenges? If I think I could say that because the banks in Sri Lanka, not only in Sri Lanka, in any context, is dealing with much sensitive data.
Very good, good point.
Yeah. So in that case, I would find it difficult as an academic because I'm not a banker, right? So as an academic, to get kind of insights to what is actually going through banks. So
very good. And Nishani, I will hold you here for a second. Yeah. Did you get an opportunity to browse the case studies which are available at Harvard Business website?
Yes, yes.
Were you able to locate case studies which are written in the context of banks and financial institutions?
Yeah. I found a really interesting case study on in the area of credit risk management, especially in the microfinance.
So now there are a couple of tips for you. The first step is that you have to make use of some of the senior people within your own business school. Maybe Abe could be that person. Maybe your dean and HOD could be that person. Maybe Chaminda could be that person. And those people may perhaps help you in facilitating your contacts with the banking industry, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Even your own alumni who were your previous students, or who are your alumni of your own university, they may also be very helpful. Alumni usually are very helpful when it comes to helping the instructors of their own alma mater. That is tip number 2. Tip number 3 for you, Nishani, is that try to highlight those issues which are not too sensitive to the bank. So maybe start with those topics which are not too sensitive to the bank and which the bank would not have much problem in sharing at least some data or some anonymized data or some kind of disguised data with you. So have a discussion with maybe one of your own senior mentors at your university, or maybe with some of your alumni, and have an open discussion with them. They can give you some of the ideas. Okay, thank you very much for this, Nishani. Let me take this question to another colleague.
Okay.
Who is it? Kohendran? Kohendran, are you with us?
Yes.
Kohendran, you have to turn on your video, please. Hello. Kohendran?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Wait.
Yes, we can see you too. Go ahead.
Okay. So probably as Nishanime said, again, obtaining information, sensitive information, will be one of the issues that we will face when we write case studies.
Kohindran, what's your area?
I'm into management and organization studies.
Oh, so there are so many topics within management and organization studies which are not sensitive. Do not hide.
Yeah, no,
do not hide behind the reason which has been given by Nishani. I can accept it in the context of business, finance, and banking, but you have to come up with your own genuine excuse.
Yeah, no, this is not an excuse, by the way. The thing is, there are many topics, but there are few topics that I teach, I'm engaged with. Just give me a second. I cannot see this.
That's okay. We can hear you. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. So the thing is, like, you know, if we are taking a particular organizational issue, and if I want to write a case on that, and if it's a real issue, then of course getting all the information from the management, whether they are really willing to divulge all the real issues, and especially when it comes to mention the names of this particular organization, then of course that would be one of the issues. And of course, streamlining that particular thing to so that we can match with the learning outcomes. Especially I teach for undergraduates, so we have to, so I personally think that we have to make it more easier, not so difficult, so that even the students can understand, because there are so many there are diverse students who have different levels of competencies. So I think it should reach everyone. So we have to, you know, try to what do you call, you know, not make it so easy, but, you know, at least to an extent to make it, you know, understandable to all the students. So that is one.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for this. Okay, colleagues, I'm still on the tips, and please take a note of all of these tips in terms of writing cases. So the writing, in terms of writing cases, the idea is that start from backward design. So start from identification of learning outcomes, which we have already discussed. Scenario, protagonist, decision, tension, we have already discussed. It should be open-ended. Do not write a case which is closed-ended. We have already discussed. You should be able to leave the case not only unresolved while you write a case, but you should also leave it unresolved when you discuss the case. It is not your responsibility as a teacher. As a teacher, it's not your responsibility. Never do it to resolve a case. Just present different perspectives. Let them present different perspectives. Let them offer the pros and cons of different perspectives. Let them make choices. Present enough information for analysis and ambiguity. So these are all of these are the tick boxes. You have to check all of these boxes when you write a case. Presents, not evaluate problem. Do not take the hat of the actual decision maker who is taking the decision. No, just present the problem and do not start evaluating the problem and offering resolution or conclusion. Allows for multiple realistic positions and resolutions, and teaching note also has to be written. And last but not least is that once you have written a case, whether it is a small case or it's a big case, you should be able to, you should first use it. Maybe you don't want to use it in the classroom, maybe use it with your 3 or 4 colleagues. And once you have got the case reviewed by colleagues, or you have run the case with colleagues, then take it to your class, undergrad class and MBA class. And once you have run the case, after running the case, refine it. You will get to know that which part was weak, which part needs more refinement, which part needs more expansion, which part needs more resources, which question needs to be clarified. So use, edit, and adapt. Teach the case and revise it. Now, in terms of writing cases, you may also wish to learn from students. And you may wish to learn from students in terms of how they are expected to analyze a case. So here we are doing some kind of reverse engineering. Bear in mind that the way we expect our students have the ability to analyze a case, but in order to facilitate them in case analysis, there has to be sufficient and relevant high quality material in the case itself. So basically, the tips for case analysis may also be seen as tips or hints for case writing. So let's take a look. The instructor may encourage students to follow a systematic approach to their analysis. For example, what's the issue? So this means that the case must have a managerial issue or tension or decision point. There has to be a certain goal of the analysis expected. The context of the problem has to be explained directly or indirectly within the case. Key facts, relevant as well as irrelevant, should be inserted in the case. The case should not be straightforward, closed-ended. Alternatives, there should be a multitude of alternatives, maybe 2, 3, 4, which are plausible. They should be available to the decision maker. And then from a student's perspective, hey, what would be your position? What alternative would you take? And give me sound arguments. So similarly, you should have within the case this provision or possibility that more than one options may be taken, and there would be valid arguments for those options or alternatives. In case writing, you may also use the innovative approaches. For example, the role play. You may require, for example, or you may, in your teaching note, you may suggest to the instructor that maybe in this specific paragraph or in this specific such sub-situation in the case, the class may be divided into 2 groups and a debate may be organized, or maybe a role play may be organized. Similarly, videos may be organized, or videos may be inserted as a part of the teaching case. Recently, one of my colleagues, a professor of strategy and communication, and we wrote a case on communication and change management in a textile sector organization in Lahore. So we spent 2 to 3 months in collecting data and conducting interviews and writing that case study. And in addition to taking notes and audio recording all of those conversations and then writing them in the shape of a case study, we also video recorded very small clips of the case protagonist as well as other key players in the case or key actors in the case. Only 2 or 3 days ago, we were able to finalize the first draft of the case. And in the case, I was able to identify that, look, these 60-second clips or 80-second clips or 2-minute clips can be inserted at this and this point within the main case itself. And those would serve as the additional material for the students to consult the case. In the teaching note 2, we provided the case protagonist perspective of the critical perspective of the case, which we did not want to include in the case itself, but we included the critical analysis from a protagonist perspective in the case teaching note, which the teacher may or may not use after the analysis of the case. So these are some of the examples which I wanted to share with you. Now let me share with you a case study which talks about akhuwat, which is once again my own case. Akhuwat is an Arabic word, and its meaning is brotherhood or sisterhood, fraternity. So the notion is this is a philanthropic organization which was founded in Lahore, Pakistan, almost 20 to 30 years ago. And the objective of the organization was to help alleviate poverty in Pakistan and to provide microloans to people in need on an interest-free basis in order to help them to stand on their own feet. Over the period of time, this organization has grown a lot, not only in terms of the number of employees and volunteers who are working for this organization. They are now in thousands. It started with only 2 or 3 people, and then it came to an organization of 20 people. Now tens of thousands of people, they are employees in this organization. But more importantly, in terms of the millions of dollars which are currently being dispersed by this organization. And the organization has a loan return rate of almost 99.9%. This is one of the most famous organizations, not only in South Asia, but also across the world. Many case studies have been written on Akhuwat by Harvard, by Stanford, by many other universities. And I have also written a case study on this from a different angle. I have written a case study on Akhuwat from a human resource management and organizational behavior perspective. So now I would finish my, or at least pause my slides. I would stop sharing the slides which I was sharing with you, and I will send to all of you the case study which I wrote on Akhuwat and which I have used in multiple classes at the MBA level and also in the executive education level at LUMS. I will be sending this case study to you via email, and my request to you would be that I'm giving you individual time, not only to, for example, to take a refreshment break, 5 to 10 minutes. If you would like to take a cup of tea or coffee, or if you would like to go to restroom, you can. But at the same time, I would like you to, once you are free, download this case from your emails. Take a quick look at the case. I'm not giving you enough time to read the case. Browse this case, and then I would like you to write the learning objectives. Write at least 3 to 5 learning objectives on the basis of the case. Is that clear? Okay, so have you read the case? I would like to have your reflections. Any volunteer who would like to offer their reflections? If I could ask Mayuri. Mayuri, if you could please offer me your reflections on the case.
Yes, I actually did not read the whole case. I just skimming through the case, and then I thought of like one possible learning outcome would be develop overall policy framework for the overall human resource function to align with the core values of Akut.
Sorry, say it again, Mayuri, in one plain line. What exactly are you suggesting?
Sort of develop overall policy framework for the human resource function to align the core values of employees with the business.
Okay, to align employees' core values with
the business objectives.
With the business objective. Okay, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Did you get a chance to quickly go through the case study, Mayuri?
Actually, I did not read the whole case, but skimming through the facts.
Skimming through the facts. Okay, that's fine. And any other reflections?
I think it's a lengthy case with a lot of human resource perspectives on it. Like almost all the human resource functions were discussed, like training and development, strategic alignment, and everything was discussed. I think it's interesting to read.
Okay, so does the case have a lot of data?
I think overall, yes, maybe like it has quantitative data, the growth of the business, the historical things and everything, and the employee perspective and the strategic perspective. I think it covers the overall facts about the business.
When I use the term data, Mayuri, I refer to both not just the quantitative data, quantitative and non-quantitative data.
Yeah, of course. In terms of training and development and core values, those things, especially qualitative.
Okay, now let me go to somebody who has not yet spoken. Darshani?
Let me, yeah, okay. So I think one of the intended learning objectives of this case would be to identify the HR-related challenges faced when organizations are growing organically.
Okay, to identify the HRM-related challenges of a growing organization?
Yeah.
Yes.
When they're growing organically, especially.
Which of these do you work in, Darshani?
HRM.
HRM, okay, okay. So is it is the case related to the HRM related challenges in general, or does it provide the context?
It is within the context of a non-profit organization. So that is also another intended learning outcome if we plan to use it for studying NGOs. Like in our teaching, if we are covering NGOs, that would also, we could use this case for that in trying to understand how to keep employees motivated when working for an NGO.
Got it. So can I rephrase what you said as to identify the HRM related challenges of a growing not-for-profit organization?
Yes, organic growth, yeah.
That's fine. Okay, let me go to another colleague. Thank you for this, Darshani.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
So let me go to Madhuka. Madhuka, you are with us?
Yes, I'm there. First of all, thank you for sharing the very interesting case study with us. I skimmed through, but I read the few paragraphs and also the paragraphs at the end thoroughly. So my first learning objective, what I thought was to identify the challenges when organizations transform from small to large organizations is the first one I thought.
Okay, transform from a small to a large organization.
Yes.
Okay. Any other?
I thought from an HR perspective, to develop effective recruitment selection strategies to ensure proper employee alignment with organization values.
Okay. Ensure employee alignment with organizational
values.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you very much for this. Let me go to another colleague and then we will have a discussion. Sujiva. Sujiva, are you with us? Damayanti?
Yes, doctor. So thank you very much for the opportunity. So I identified two learning outcomes for this case. The first one is, so agreeing with Mayuri, identify the importance of employee alignment with organizational values.
Okay.
And the second one is, so at the end of the case, students would understand the importance of determining core organizational values.
Sorry, say it again.
The first one is identify the importance of employee alignment with organizational values.
And the second one?
The second one is understand the importance of determining co-organizational values.
Okay. Can you explain the second part again? What do you mean by it?
Because the case says that, so the organization, so it has 817 branches across the country and it has 6,794 employees. So in that case, the organization should have a very good core values which align the employees with the organizational values. So if the organization cannot determine proper values, core values, so they cannot think about the training, they can think about like cascading down it to the employees, they cannot think about aligning employees with the organization. So they should have a good value system, and that should be explicitly shown, explicitly given, explicitly identified. So it's very important to identify or determine the core organizational values for the organization.
Okay, thank you very much, Damayanti. I have another question for you, and then I will go to other colleagues. And the question is, which course can this case be taught in? Which course or courses?
Can be used in the change management even, because this is I'm teaching the change management subject. So under the topics like managing the people issues, we can take this case and teach, and strategic management.
Okay. What would be the learning objectives for a change management course?
So identify the role of the leader in a successful change in the case from small business to a large business.
Successful transformation of a small/medium size organization
to a large scale organization.
Large scale. Okay, interesting. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, let me go to another colleague. Let me go to somebody who we have not yet bothered. Who could it be? Who could it be? Maybe Kamudu?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah, Kamudu.
Yeah, so I came across several actually learning objectives. So one was actually to explore whether the organization's operations and processes are consistent with ethical framework.
Processes and operations are consistent with
ethical framework.
Ethical framework, okay.
Yes.
Now hold on here, Kamudu. What do you teach?
Actually, I'm into auditing and taxation, sir.
Fair enough. Okay, now tell me the course in which this case can be taught.
Actually, in HRM, some kind of an HRM related course.
Okay. Any other course?
Maybe.
I can give you a tip.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
please.
the tip is that the learning objective which you just narrated to me.
Maybe operations management or ethical studies.
Okay.
Something related. Business ethics. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for this, Kamudu. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Let me now go to another one. There is another colleague as well, Kumudini.
Yes. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah. I understand we can use this case study in OB class, organizational behavior. I'm looking from that perspective now, where we can ask the students to identify what techniques
can be used to inculcate values into new recruits in a diversified workforce.
What technique can be used to inculcate organizational values
Existing values or organizational values into new recruits, or it can be said like this: how to sustain the existing organization culture in a diversified workforce.
The existing organizational culture in a growing organization?
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, friends, now based on what you have told me, I am sharing with you in the chat the learning objectives and the courses that you have suggested. Tell me if you can see it. Let me see. Okay, Control C. Let me go to chat and let me go to chat. Yes, this is a chat box. And let me write to
everyone.
Yeah. Why can't I copy paste it? That's another issue. Can I not copy paste it here, please?
I think you can. Yeah, you can.
Let me try it again. No, it doesn't like me. Maybe I don't know. What is it that I can't? Okay, let me share with you the screen. At least I can share with you the screen. Let me share with you because that option is not there. And when I'll share the screen, I'm sure, is the session being recorded?
Recorded, yes.
Yeah, fine. Let me go to the share screen. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now you can see in front of you the ILOs or the learning objectives, which you told me. I have slightly refined them in the light of your own input. And apparently, based on your collective input, you gave me a set of 7. You gave me a set of 10 intended learning objectives. I'm glad that these have been recorded as a part of the overall recording, which I'm sure would be available with you. And the second thing is that this also shows you the courses in which this case can be taught. So based on your input, it can be taught. This case can be taught in courses on human resource management or organizational behavior, business ethics, or change management. Okay, so that was just to give you a reflection on what exactly can be done and achieved in terms of when we write a case. The first thing to do is always to start with the intended learning objectives. Now I've got an assignment for you, and that assignment I will share with you via email as well, but let me very quickly share the assignment with you. And this is your assignment. Chaminda, when is our next class, the final class? Chaminda?
Yeah, we are planning mostly on 9th of September.
Okay, so whenever it is, if it is 9th of September, then you see that the deadline for all participants is 2nd of September. So please note it down that whenever our next session would be, your deadline is 1 week before the next session, and you have to submit to me a case outline, all of you individually. Actually, I can think about it, Chaminda, and actually all participants can chip in, that instead of you individually writing it, would you like to write it as co-writers, co-authors? So for example, instead of 15 of you submitting 15 cases or 14 cases, you assemble yourself in groups of 2 or maximum 3 and write a case. What would suit you most? The aim is this, that you should be able to write a case. Let me explain it to you, and then we will come to the ownership and the authorship of it. So what exactly do you need to write when you submit the document to me? The title would, of course, be case outline. It will start with the author's name, which is your name. Then you will have to write the ILOs, write at least 2 or 3 intended learning objectives of the case. So I'm writing here 2 or 3, okay? Author's name could be solo or co-author, but I would like to have names. Okay. Third is the course in which you would intend to use this case. I would like you to specify the course. I would like you to specify the level, whether that would be for undergrad or whether that would be for postgrad. I would like you to write the the case title and also specify the organization. In fact, in addition to the organization, I would like you to organization, industry, also industry. So organization and industry, specify it. I would like you to specify the name of the protagonist, the main decision maker. I would like you to briefly, in one paragraph, write down a case problem, a managerial issue, or decision point. Try that decision point to be something in the past, in recent past. I'm not talking about 10 years ago. I'm not talking about 2 weeks ago. I'm talking about something which was 1 year ago, which they were facing, the problem. So a case has to be something of the past, not something which was many years ago, and not something which is currently happening. So here I'm using the word one paragraph, recent past, one paragraph. Brief information about the industry, organization, and the industry in one paragraph so that we know what kind of organization are we dealing with. Brief information about the case protagonist, who is he or she, what is their qualification, since how much time he or she has been spent working in this organization, in which capacity. Then you would also specify the data to be collected, number of interviews, with whom, company reports, etc. What kind of data would you collect? You need to specify in one paragraph. Deadlines you will need to specify for yourself. For example, ideally the case should be, ideally, I would say, ideally within 4 months. You should complete the draft within 4 months. And you would also need to write the friendly reviewer's name. Somebody who has reviewed the case before you, reviewer's name for the outline. Before you submit it to me, I would like it to be reviewed by somebody who has case writing experience, who can give you some friendly review. Okay, so look, this is your assignment. This is your major assignment. In the past, I would say 2 sessions, the current session and in the last week's session, I think that I have already given you enough information. I have shared enough details in terms of the case writing tips and in terms of what exactly should be the motivation of writing a case. I have also given you an opportunity, and you have very kindly participated in it, in terms of identifying some useful cases, or role model case, or model cases for you from Harvard Business Publishing website. Now this is an opportunity for you to jump into case writing yourself, okay? Let me, with this, I will also be sharing this document with you via email so that you can have it in a soft copy and you can work on it. Let me go to my original slide, which was original thing where I was sharing with you the presentation. So let me go to my presentation once again. Let me share with you the case, the slide share thing. Let me go.
Dr. Jawad, there's a question now. One want to ask whether the original team, so 4 people, can do them together, like the same teams?
I would like to hear from them. I have no issue with that. original team of 4 people may or may not. There would be one problem, Chaminda, and the problem could be that that ideally, unless it is a multidisciplinary case, the case has to be written by the discipline experts. So for example, if this is a case on ethics and organizational behavior, then I don't mind if people of business ethics and organizational behavior background, if they come together to write a case. But if there is a case, for example, on banking and finance, then a person from OB and HRM may not be directly relevant unless this is an issue of HRM and OB connected with finance. So that is something. So therefore, I would say that instead of sticking to the original groups of 4, I would like the colleagues to make groups of 2 or 3 on the basis of the ILOs and the courses for which they intend to design that case. Does that make sense, Chaminda?
Yeah.
So we can be flexible for them to assemble their own teams in groups of 2 or 3. But one thing is clear, that they should be able to utilize that case for their own specific courses. Okay, so that is also. Let me now share the slides with you. Where are the slides gone? I thought that I had the presentation here. I can't see somehow. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. So, friends, you know that you have read the case of Akhuwat. So very quickly, I will tell you the case writing mechanism of this case. So case structure in terms of Akhuwat case structure is case structure. Critical issue or decision. What was the critical issue? The critical issue was the scaling up of excellence. So how to ensure sustained organizational values when the organization is growing in an exponential fashion. There is exponential growth of the organization, and now we are recruiting new and new people, and we are not sure, and the organization's founder and the founding directors, they are a little bit anxious that how employees' values can be sustained. So that was a critical issue or the decision point. So where is the decision point stated? Perhaps it may be stated somewhere in the introduction or towards the very end. Once again, I'm at the example of Akhuwat. Who is the protagonist? Mr. Atif Tufail, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer, is the protagonist. I'm sorry, I was not using this, I don't know, I've got the earphone with me, so my apologies. I think that the quality of the sound may not be great. So has it improved? Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Our colleagues, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So the protagonist was Mr. Atif Tufail, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer. But in a way, Dr. Amjad Saqib, the founder, director, or the CEO of the organization, also has a key role to play. The decision issue or the tension was the scaling up of excellence, which I have already discussed. Organizational history and context and relevant data were provided within the case. National context, culture, religious values, economy, poverty, that was also explained. And the possible approach which could be used by case writers and analysts could be maybe an ethical angle, maybe a human resource management angle, maybe a change management angle. Any of those approaches could be adopted. The current state was also offered. And then the students were asked, or the analysts are to be asked, what should be done? How can Atif, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer, or Amjad, who is the CEO, how can they ensure that employees' values remain aligned with the organization while the organization is growing? Once again, let's go to the case structure. Information must be provided to make a decision, like organization's history, core values and mission of the organization. They were provided in the case. leader's vision and strategies based on interviews with the leader. It was also provided in the case. Data on organizational growth was provided. Organizational interventions were provided, that how they are trying to scale up excellence. So you see, these were a few things which I provided as a case writer, because I knew that this kind of information would be needed by the participants for their analysis of the case. Okay, in terms of the draft case outline, you have to understand that case usually starts with the protagonist. Like this case started with Atif Tufail. Give a sense of the person making the decision and a sense of the critical issue. Then comes the company background and history. Then should come the industry related information, for example, NGO sector or the national context. Then comes company specifics related to decision, maybe the company growth, the growth in number of employees, the growth in number of people benefiting from the company's loans. Then provide a summary, the summary which may be utilized in the towards the end, that look, now what should the protagonist do and what exactly are the critical issues. So that is the draft case outline. Ideally, I would like you to write a case study which would be around 7 to 10 pages, maximum 15 pages, all inclusive, no more than 15 pages. So what exactly is the case writing process? Articulate the critical issue or decision point. This will come from your case protagonist, the one you would interview in the industry. Summarize the information needed to make a decision. Research will be needed. You will need to conduct some interviews. List necessary data, who has to be interviewed, what kind of questions would be asked. So you need to also make an interview protocol. Any other data, the company data, the balance sheet data, the annual report data, the website data, the secondary sources, all of this has to be listed. Data collection through interviews. Do a background reading. So instead of going to the company and asking them, hey, what does this company produce? And since when this company came into being, do your own homework. So read about the company from the website or the annual report. Get enough data from secondary sources so that when you go to the company respects you, that you have done your own homework. Prepare the interview questions. Do not ask them that, hey, what should I ask you? You should have already made the interview protocol or interview questions. Formulate questions which can help you gather relevant data for making the decision and to address the ILOs or the learning objectives. Prepare your interviews and also make sure that your telephone or the audio recording machine that is working properly. Have fun and you should have enough time to engage with the alums in your project. Maybe you don't have the enough context in the textile industry. Maybe you don't have the enough context in the tea industry. Alumni would help you. Senior faculty members would help you. I do not expect you to write the teaching note right now. At this stage, my only requirement would be that you should clearly specify the learning objective and the course in which this case would be used. At a later stage, once I'm in touch with you and also I'm in touch with Abe and Chaminda, we will discuss that how we can design a future intervention in terms of further refinement of your cases and teaching notes. So these are the ideal next steps. They may not exactly apply to you, but I would like to share these with you so that you understand what exactly could be the next steps. So give some ideas, get some ideas, review material from alum or industry contact. I teach, for example, marketing. I teach, for example, supply chain. And these are the learning objectives for which I don't have good quality cases. Maybe I have a case from Brazil, but I would like to have a case from Sri Lanka. Maybe think about it and get some ideas from your senior faculty members, senior colleagues, or alum or industry contact. Prepare preliminary research to meet your mentor in the industry or mentor in your own academia. Then in the next 2 to 4 weeks, I would like you to have a formal meeting with your mentor. If you can identify a mentor at your university or some other university within Sri Lanka or abroad, or maybe with a senior colleague, to discuss the nature of the case study, the avenues of research, the line of questioning for interviews, what kind of questions, what questions would be asked, and a rough outline, exactly along the lines on which I have given you the rough outline parameters. In the next 2 to 3 months, you will be preparing for interviews, you will create interview questions, you will actually conduct interviews, and you will further begin refining the outline of the case. And in 3 to 4 months, you will write your case and teaching note, a working draft. You will edit the case and teaching note, you will refine the case and teaching note, you will use it and you will refine it. You will case and teaching note. Once you have used it and refined it, hopefully your case and teaching note document will be ready for review in about 4 months. So put it this way, that now we are by mid of August. So we are looking at September, October, November, December. By mid of December, ideally, you should have a case and teaching note ready. So that is the ideal scenario which I wanted to share with you. Let me now stop these slides. And now the forum is open for your own questions and the answers. I remember that perhaps Shivanti, you had a question for me. I would give you this opportunity to, I would give this opportunity to you to ask the first question, and then I will allow other colleagues to answer, to pose their question. So Shivanti.
Sorry, just quick 1 minute request. Dr. Jawad, can you also let us have your presentation slides so that they can reflect on them?
Sure, sure. I will send my presentation slides to you via email. That's not an issue.
Jawad, yes.
Yes. One was that in addition to the subjects that was mentioned that this case could be used, it could also be used for organization theory when we are talking about organization life cycle.
That's right.
And how organizations grow and certain crisis points that comes when organizations grow. So that was just one. The question that I had was, you mentioned that many other writers have written about this organization. And my question is, how do you differentiate rather than sounding repetitive when you are writing a case that has already been written?
Very good question, Suvandi. Given that you have asked such a difficult question, let me invite you to answer this question for me, please. Think about it. How would you, if you were a case writer and you became interested in this specific organization, and you know that many other faculty members, at least 3 or 4 of them, have written on this organization, how would you differentiate your case from the previous cases?
I think you're putting the same thing that I would ask my students.
I know.
Also.
I know. You know. Okay. Let me give you the answer. But before I give you the answer, let me share with you my own experience. When I started my first job, and that is many years ago, interestingly, that was also in a semi-textile firm. It was in a jute firm, and I was an assistant manager there, and it was my first job. I think it was my 3rd day or 4th day in the job, and I went to my manager, a senior manager, and I told him that, look, I've got a problem, and I'm facing this problem, and I would really appreciate if you could offer me an advice. Do you know what did he ask me?
He put the same thing back to you, I guess.
He said to me that never come to me with a problem when you don't have a solution. So he said to me that come to me, tell me that this is a challenge, and these are 2 or 3 solutions which are in my mind, and what do you think? Okay, that was just a detracking kind of a comment. Let me offer you my reflections. The most important thing, Suvandi, for you and for I, and for any other case writer is that first of all, we need to look at the cases which have been written, and we have to look at the learning objectives of those cases. If my learning objectives are different from their learning objectives, then we are looking at the same organization, but a different case. Do you understand? So then maybe somebody has written a case on the same organization, maybe from a financial perspective. Maybe somebody has written a case from a different teleological, ethical perspective. But here I was like more interested in examining this case from a human resource management perspective, but also with a view to how employee values could be aligned with the organizational objectives. So it was an altogether different objective, a learning objective, which I specified for this specific organization, which then clearly distinguished my case from the previous cases. Does that make any sense to you, Sumandi?
Yes,
Hello?
thank you. All right.
Sure. That's okay. Okay, colleagues, any other reflections, any other questions that you might have? How could this be possible that I have been bothering you with my monotone for the past approximately 3 hours and you do not have any questions? Abe, I would like your help in this, that what exactly is my style of, I don't know, teaching very incomprehensible or very comprehensive that they don't need to ask me any questions? Chaminda, Abe, any help? Chaminda?
Excuse me, Professor Jawad. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually, by reading some case writing, some advices to write cases, some journals and some case conferences, I understood that usually they ask to write a single opening paragraph. Most often they say opening paragraph with 60 words, where we have to mention the decision maker, his name, his position, location, time period, so many things, but in 60 words. So kind of thing. So when I downloaded some cases from this Harvard Business Publishing, actually I saw some cases they have been written like that, but not all. So what do you think about that kind of advice?
Before I offer any advice or 2 cents to you, Kumudini, I would very strongly encourage you to go to my case on Akhuwat. Take a look at my case. Okay. The very first paragraph.
Okay.
Actually, the first 2 paragraphs. Okay. All of you, I'm inviting all of you to read the first 2 paragraphs of my case on page number 1. My question is, do you see the name of the case protagonist? Anyone, yes or no? You need to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do you see the name of the organization? Oh, okay. Do you see the date or year in which the case is situated?
Yes.
And do you see the problem in the first 2 paragraphs? The tension point?
Yes.
That's it?
Yes.
So I would not be too worried, Kumudini, that whether I have been able to do it within 60 words or 90 words. As long as we have been able to do justice with these objectives in the first 60, 90, 100 words, that's fine. Anyway, reflections from your side. Once again, I can see that colleagues would like me to give them this opportunity, like me to invite them. So maybe I should ask Ruweha, would you like to offer your reflections? One takeaway?
I particularly like the fact that where this lady, I'm sorry, I couldn't capture her name, where she said that the case, sorry, that's my little daughter.
That's okay. We are working from home. That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, where she said that a case should not be too short.
at the same time that it should not be too long as well. That point triggered my mind.
Okay. They were talking about the compelling story and spark of interest. What do they mean by this?
I mean, it should be something, I mean, as the words did sound, it should be, there should be some interesting case or a synopsis, you know, for people to dig into, and, you know, there should be something to learn. And there should be something maybe like the readers and the people who use the study for analysis purposes could actually recommend something to, you know, take something as well as give something.
Okay, so if there is a case which you find boring, what exactly is the likelihood that your students will find it interesting?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Iranjana, I'm coming to you. What are your, give us one or two takeaways from this video.
I think one idea that really captured my mind is where one of the resource person was talking about the uniqueness of a case. I was thinking about one of my experiences where it was not a teaching case, but it was more of a research in relation to a case, a non-profit business, which employs intellectually disabled individuals as employees. So it was a very unique thing in Sri Lanka, and it has been they have been in the business for many years, but it had not come into limelight. So I did a research and a case, a kind of hybrid one, based on that particular business organization. So I really take this concept of uniqueness as a very important criteria in choosing cases and writing cases.
Okay, Ranjana, I have another question for you. Yeah. Did you realize that many of the themes which I have been discussing in today's session and yesterday's session, they were also reflected in the video which you just heard?
Yeah, I think, yeah, most of the ideas were reflected on the video. And I think one of the important thing is that the person who's writing the case should find it very interesting. And also another important thing is the student should find it interesting. And since we take case studies as an additional supporting device or supporting technique in our classroom, it should ultimately, support the learning outcomes while being so interesting to the audience. Another thing that I'd like to add is that the wider audience that who read these case studies is also important. So in that context, I believe that while we think about our class, we have to think about the wider audience as well.
That's fine. Can you do one thing for me, Ranjana?
Yeah.
Can you check your email? Have you received something from me?
Slides, is it?
Yeah, I've been sending to all of you quite a few things. I've sent you slides. I've also sent you the homework for your future assignment.
Yes.
I've also sent another couple of things to all of you. Okay, thank you very much for confirming this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is more or less everything from my side for today's session.